Welcome to Video Blog 2. After watching Video 1 or seeing the documentary, you should be an expert on the film Blackfish, or at least have an idea of what the documentary was about, its public impact, and the effect on SeaWorld. Since its release in 2013, Blackfish has been a critically acclaimed film both for its message and delivery. As I touched on in the last video, Mike.com describes the model as such: the combination of raw footage, expert analysis, and a strong argument that is clear and concise. In the last decade, according to Mike.com, documentaries like Super Size Me, The Thin Blue Line, Gasland, and a combination of The Inside Job, Inequality for All, Money for Nothing Inside the Federal Reserve, each of these documentaries followed a similar narrative as Blackfish. Super Size Me is the best example. Morgan Spurlock released his documentary in 2004. For a month, Spurlock ate only McDonald's 3 times a day. He ate everything off the menu at least once. After releasing the documentary, many people were appalled at the physical effect that McDonald's has on the consumer. 6 weeks after release, McDonald's removed the Super Size Me option. Since they've been very adamant about posting nutritional facts, offering healthier options, and downsizing the amount of unhealthy items on their menu.
Hello, may I help you?
Yeah, could I get the double quarter pounder with cheese meal?
Large or supersize?
I think I'm gonna have to go supersize.
It's hard for me to watch him go through this.
So it seems like you're starting to get addicted to it now.
You saw these numbers, right? These numbers are outrageous.
Unfortunately, you cause some major harm to your heart, your liver, your blood.
You're gonna die. You'll die.
I want more.
You gotta stop it.
Supersize the American way. Getting fat, getting broke, either way you're gonna pay. Supersize me.
Supersize it up.
Supersize me.
Make it bacon.
Supersize me. Supersize me. Supersize me.
A very similar documentary to Blackfish was released just 4 years prior, called The Cove. The documentary was directed by the Oceanic Preservation Society, or OPS. The Cove depicts the dolphin trained in Japan, how they are gathered for trainers to select from, then the ones left are brutally murdered and then packaged and sold as whale meat. This happens from September through mid-spring. The Japanese population isn't even aware that this is happening or that they're consuming dolphin meat that is saturated in mercury and causes mercury poisoning in humans, which can result in death. This documentary presents investigative footage that the directors collected and has never been captured before in the Secret Cove. During the first scenes of the documentary, it is clear that the area is highly guarded by local fishermen that know if they were exposed, they would lose their jobs.
But I do want to say that we try to do the story legally.
There it is. A little town with a really big secret. It's so bizarre what's going on over here.
When we first got in the country, we had no idea who was following us.
You think they know we're here?
We didn't know if it was the whalers, the Japanese mafia.
Somebody's behind me. I don't know who that is. They don't like me. They don't like my message.
Rick is world famous for his work with dolphins.
I feel somewhat responsible because it was the Flipper TV series that created this multi-billion-dollar industry. The dolphin smile is nature's greatest deception. It creates the illusion they're always happy. You realize after a while they don't really belong in captivity.
I'd never seen so many dolphins before.
The Japanese people don't even know about it.
They take the boats around to the secret cove that nobody could see.
They're afraid of cameras. They said if the world finds out what goes on here, we'll be shut down.
They were hiding something.
We need to get in there and film exactly what happens. We need to know the truth.
We needed people with a special set of skills to implement this mission.
They're behind me.
Let's go.
Good luck.
Underwater camera is set.
They're not being told that the free lunch meat that their children are getting are contaminated.
Let it not be said that you didn't know about it. You know about it.
If we can't fix that, there's no hope.
Okay, there's a flashlight. Guards are moving. Guards are moving.
Get out of there. Get out of there now.
From when Blackfish was first released, OPS and others that were in the Cove backed Calperthwaite and her interviewees along with other filmmakers of Blackfish. In an article in the Huffington Post, OPS immediately supported the documentary, posting about it through all of their various communication channels. OPS even posted an online open letter to support the film and further contradict the statements that were made by SeaWorld. SeaWorld printed ads in all major newspapers across the country on December 20th, 2013 to defuse the allegations that Blackfish is propaganda. SeaWorld wrote in the full-page ads released in December that we do not separate killer whales' moms and calves, and SeaWorld does not capture killer whales in the wild. The open letter has been taken offline, but IndieWire.com had an excerpt. SeaWorld is afraid that the truth about captivity is spreading, especially since the release of the film Blackfish. The open letter advertisement placed by SeaWorld is in response to Blackfish, but steers clear of the title for fear of bringing the film further attention. Blackfish has already been seen by over 20 million people, has been shortlisted for an Oscar, and is negatively impacting SeaWorld's public image and bottom line. Its stock price has dropped as much as 30% since the release of Blackfish, and its CEO and institutional investors have dumped tens of millions of shares. 8 internationally renowned musical acts have canceled performances at the park, and the company has resorted to recruiting visitors with Groupon deals to boost failing attendance. OPS was present at several of Blackfish events that were public. The support from the documentary and organization of a similar cause helped to catapult the documentary in its early stages of release. Since OPS is an internationally recognized organization, it helped to reach more than just those within the context of the U.S. With that said, however, the legislation that has been enacted in the last 8 weeks has been only for those within the U.S. borders, which I'll speak about more in the video blog 3. Having personally seen both documentaries, Blackfish and The Cove, I was surprised and intrigued by the fact that The Cove was something that didn't gain per se as much success as Blackfish. The Cove received more awards than Blackfish, and specifically an Academy Award, but the captivity and theatrical shows of dolphins continues and isn't considered in the current conversations of orca captivity and entertainment. In an article titled Blackfishing for Buzz, the Rhetoric of the Real in Theme Parks and Documentary, in the Journal of Florida Studies, writer Stephen Schoen compares and contrasts The Cove and Blackfish. As Schoen describes, Blackfish's best vehicle is their multi-channel word of mouth. Blackfish was meant to generate 1. Buzz, and 2. Activist response. He describes the documentary's success from its threefold strategy: theatrical, CNN, and Netflix feature, and how it grounded itself as real, its effort to foster a powerful identification with the whales, and its active engagement with the viewer to resolve their experience in the world, not just the text of the documentary. As noted in the model of the narrative, the old footage of trainers interviewed when they were on the job at SeaWorld to actual footage of orcas being captured, the film is in our world.
We are only after the little one. And the little one is, a big animal still, but I was told because of shipping costs, that's why they only take the little ones.
They had the young ones that they wanted in the corrals, so they dropped the seine nets, and all the others could have left, but they stayed.
We're there trying to get the young orca in the stretcher, and the whole family is out here 25 yards away maybe in a big line, and they're communicating back and forth. Well, you understand then what you're doing, I lost it. I mean, I started crying. I didn't stop working, but I, just couldn't handle it. And just like kidnapping a little kid away from her mother. Everybody's watching. What can you do? It's the worst thing I can think of. I can't think of anything worse than that. Now, this really sounds bad, but when the whole hunt was over, there were 3 dead whales in the net. And so they had Peter and Brian and I cut the whales open, fill them with rocks, and put anchors on their tail and sink them. Well, really, I didn't even think about it being illegal at that point. I thought it was a PR thing.
They were
Making the film feel real meant having a clear identification. From the article, identification invited audiences to see their own identities and interests bound up in the drama of the text they engaged with. Therefore, SeaWorld was the identified. Many of us have been there or can imagine the sensations of the experience. The identification became obvious after the release of the film, once SeaWorld began to respond with press releases, position papers, and TV and print ads that all refuted the claims made by Blackfish without directly mentioning the documentary's name. And so Blackfish is symbolically resolved in the only place it can be, SeaWorld itself.
There's some facts about SeaWorld we'd like you to know.
We don't collect killer whales from the wild and haven't for 35 years.
With the highest standard of animal care in the world, our whales are healthy.
They're thriving.
It wouldn't work here if they weren't.
And government research shows they live just as long as whales in the wild.
Caring for these whales, we have a great responsibility to get that right.
And we take it very seriously because we love them.
And we know you love them too.
According to Schoen, the Cove didn't do this. First and foremost, the place that this is occurring, Japan, isn't somewhere where most of the population watching the Cove can identify and relate with. Furthermore, the metaphor created by Cowperthwaite throughout her documentary was of visualizing human captivity in relation to orcas employed by pathos. Lori Morano in the film says, "These are animals that have highly elaborated emotional lives." With that, the second focus of the film being on the separation of families touched on the maternal love that we all experience as humans. The interview with the trainer describing a separation of a mother and calf describes it best.
It was generally a quiet whale. She was not overly vocal whale. After Kalina was removed from the scene and put on the truck and taken to the airport, and Katina, her mom, was left in the pool, she stayed in the corner of the pool, like literally just shaking and screaming, screeching, crying. Like I'd never seen her do anything like that.
Blackfish and the Cove, according to Schoen, are both powerful. I agree, but in different contexts. Schoen describes Blackfish as a dramatic reveal of facts, whereas he cites a New York Times article review of the Cove being called a spy thriller. By forefronting a narrative form that is associated with fiction and decentering its status as a documentary, The Cove invites its audience to receive the very real horrors it depicts as a story world. Blackfish, on the other hand, forefronts its narrative form as a documentary. Documentaries as a vehicle for social change have been very prominent, especially in the last 2 decades. In the journal Foreign Affairs, an article titled "The Power of Social Media" states, "The use of social media tools, text messaging, email, photo sharing, social networking, and the like, does not have a single preordained outcome, but does create change." Although many documentaries have a specific outcome, for instance, the end of massacres of dolphins in the Cove, or adding nutrition items and facts from the film Super Size Me, as I noted in the first video, the closing of SeaWorld is not what Cowperthwaite is looking for. She released the facts in her documentary, as she says in an interview with IndieWire.com, to make change around the way marine animals in captivity are treated. The article in Foreign Affairs continued to say that the communication landscape is vast and growing immensely. With that, it's more complex and participatory, allowing everyone to gain incredible amounts of information, and therefore more opportunities to create collective social action. In the Journal of Information Policy, a survey was conducted with 169 individuals from 53 different advocacy groups to gather and comprehend users' stance on the mobilization of social media and similar technologies. All of the groups admitted that social media allow them to communicate with those on the periphery, those interested but perhaps not involved in their cause. They also concurred that the respondents strongly believe that social media enables them to accomplish their advocacy and organizational goals through a range of specified activities. According to data released by Twitter, Blackfish was the most talked about show on CNN in October 2013 after its release on the 24th. There were 67,673 tweets seen by 7.3 million people. The extremity of engagement online from Twitter to Facebook, Instagram, and the latter created a word-of-mouth, multi-platform effect that caused individuals of any age to become aware of the documentary. In an article in the Huffington Post, the CNN premiere swept every group under 55, and a majority of demographics in the senior citizen range. They also were able to capture the groups most sold to new advertisers, 25 to 54, as well as those in younger groups. In other words, best said by the New York Times, essentially anyone breathing at any age became introduced with Blackfish. Some of the activity on Twitter came from a hashtag created by SeaWorld that was #AskSeaWorld. The hashtag was created to allow the public to engage with SeaWorld about their questions and concerns around documentary Blackfish and just what they're doing in general. Discussed on the YouTube series Pop Trigger, host Sam Shasher explains how the public used the hashtag to instead attack the company. For instance, an image of Tillicum was tweeted with the caption, "If you were in a bathtub for 30 years, don't you think you'd get a little psychotic?" From there, it spurred into a chaotic PR nightmare. Check out some of the tweets.
There's been a lot of unfair criticism about SeaWorld these days, and it has a lot of people asking questions, which I totally get. So today what we're here to do is to try to answer one of those key questions that almost everybody has about our killer whales. So the question comes from Kylie on Twitter, and Kylie asks, PETA says killer whales in the wild live 30 to 50 years on average, but your whales have an average lifespan of only 9 years. Is that true? Kylie, firstly, thank you for asking the question. And I gotta tell you, it's absolutely not true. But you don't just have to take our word for it. Some of the best marine mammal researchers in the world work for the federal government at the Alaska Fisheries Science Center. You know what they found? That killer whales that live at SeaWorld live just as long as killer whales in the wild. In fact, one of the authors of that report told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "Survival in the wild is comparable to survival in captivity." That doesn't happen by accident. The reason our killer whales are living long lives, thriving and healthy here at SeaWorld is because of the comprehensive health care program that we can provide for them.
Yeah, so let's just switch over to Trua so we can push that.
We've really just been monitoring her for hormonal activity to see if she's cycling normally, but health-wise, everything has looked really normal.
Let's just look at her from Trua. So.
Every single day, SeaWorld vets and animal care staff do a thorough examination of every whale. We may measure the whale to see what their pattern of growth is. We may collect body weights from the whales. The veterinarians will check urine, will collect cells from their airway. We can culture those things, look under a microscope, and look for trends in the health of that individual whale.
And then how much serum are we banking? As much as we can get?
As much as we can get. That way we have lots of serum banked for all the researchers that are coming along and wanting to.
Okay, we collect bloods from all of our killer whales. We can identify subtle changes in their blood results that will give us a hint as to whether a killer whale is beginning to become sick. And then we can intervene early and stave off the illness altogether.
Yeah, I've been able to upload it into his record. This eye looked great. It looked completely normal.
All of these tests allow us to very, very closely monitor the health of each and every single killer whale. And that's why we're here. That's why we've got the largest killer whale care staff in the world. I'm a veterinarian, and just like doctors, we veterinarians take an oath. I wouldn't work here if I wasn't able to give these whales the world-class care they deserve. So don't believe what PETA and Blackfish are saying. Our killer whales live lives just as long as killer whales in the wild. We hope that answers your question, Kylie, and thank you very much for asking it. We know you love killer whales, and boy, I'll tell you, we love killer whales too. So please keep those questions coming. We're eager to answer every single one.
In my next video, I will discuss specifically the media circulated surrounding Blackfish, both by supporters and those against, as well as what SeaWorld has put out and others, and what SeaWorld has done now and will do in the future. See you then.